In the year 2000, George was the distinguished lecturer at a hack meeting that I organized here in Poznań. My PhD student, Dominika Borek, was presenting a newly discovered enzyme structure where we found an unknown metal cation. But what metal? Some options were floated, like calcium, potassium. I even considered the possibility of sodium. In the discussion after Dominika's presentation, George said, "You should use the bond valence method." Following his suggestion, the metal was unambiguously identified as sodium, and sodium is now a canonical component of plant asparagenases. Many years earlier, in 1977, when I was an aspiring PhD student, our university bought a Soviet mainframe computer called Riyadh, which was an illegal copy of the IBM 370 machine. The Soviets had made some improvements, which as a rule made things only worse. Being the only person in the lab who knew computer programming, I took upon myself the task of installing Sheldrick 72. Dr. Sheldrick kindly sent me the Fortran source code on magnetic tape. When I compiled the program, everything went well, except that the linker complained that two subroutines, one of them HKL, were missing. What to do? I mustered all my courage and decided to call Dr. Sheldrick by phone. You have to imagine what making an international call in communist Poland looked like. The telephone was a black bakelite dial and receiver contraption that hissed, croaked, gurgled, etc., muffling the voice. And it was my first attempt to use my English on such an occasion. You had to order the call via an operator, who was regularly a Secret Service agent listening to the line. After 2 or 3, maybe 4 hours, there was a commotion in the lab. "Cambridge is on the line." I explained to George that the HKL routine was missing. He said very calmly, "It is at the beginning of the tape." I said, "It is not. It is, it isn't, it is, it isn't." After several such exchanges, Dr. Sheldrick says, "It's only 4 lines. I'll dictate it for you." I took the dictation, but God knows what kind of code it was and what the operator thought of it. The short of it was that ultimately Dr. Sheldrick sent me a letter by post with a printout of HKL. I supplied the subroutine on punch cards, and finally Sheldrick 72 could be installed successfully. A few years later, our university acquired a genuine IBM tape drive. I took the original Sheldrick's tape and the punch cards to reinstall the program. It was a huge consternation when it appeared that the cards were unnecessary because everything was on the tape. It turned out that the Soviet drive had used a very long meters of the tape to wind it up on the receiving reel, swallowing as it went the 2 first subroutines. I was blushing with shame for my embarrassing conversation with George. But I learned on that occasion that what you say must be always precise, logical, and true. And by looking into the Sheldrick's code, I hope I learned at least some of the elegant programming style of the part-time programming technician George M. Sheldrick. This is how we remembered him.